I've been in Greenwood and teaching at MVSU since 1980. When I first arrived, we actually had a separate music and art department. Each department was separate and autonomous, and the following year they combined them into a fine arts department. Well, the department chair who was in that position when I arrived was Russell Boone, who was also the original main band director from the late 50s, early 60s. So he was really one of the first people I ever spoke with about coming here. And Dr. Alphonso Sanders, who was our longest serving chair for 15 years. And now, of course, Dr. Kimberly Broadwater, who we're delighted to have leading our program at this point. The part of the music program that first comes to mind for most everybody out there in the public is the band aspect of it, because that's very high profile. And of course, its connection with athletics and so forth. They were the first band at a historically black college to march in the Tournament of Roses parade in the 1960s.
Tempo approaching is the rhythmic, exciting band of Mississippi Valley State College.
The choir came along as well around that time during the 60s. They went on some tours. This was under Mrs. Henrietta Lowe, and went to South America and gained a good bit of prominence here in the state as well. They used to give an annual performance of Handel's Messiah that attracted notables and dignitaries throughout the state. But we've had a number of outstanding individual performers, both on the student side and faculty side. I mentioned Dr. Alphonso Sanders already, our former chair, who is a very, very prominent figure in the jazz world, jazz and blues. Mr. Ricky Burkhead, who's in charge of the percussion program up at Ole Miss, and he's one of our proud alumni. So people like that. Ann Pickett-Stroman, who's very prominent in the opera world. She also attended MVSU, studied under Mrs. Lowe. On the art side, we've had some alumni such as Andrew Lark, who's highly successful art teacher over in Starkville, got the Mississippi Teacher of the Year award a few years back. Jerry Redmond, who's very big in the design world, graphic design, and a lot of people we can point to with great amount of pride on the alumni side, and many, many others, particularly in the music education field, or classroom music teachers, all throughout the state and every level from elementary up through university.
How the arts important to the Mississippi Delta? I think they're vital. I think that the arts in general are very important in our communities. And we speak about the history and the understanding of the Mississippi Delta. The arts have been a major player in that. So a museum like this, I think, is critical, particularly for youngsters and those coming up to understand the significant roles that have been played out here in the Mississippi Delta. And to have a location like this in our community is extremely important. I think that moving forward, looking at our history, the founding of the university, to the present and the future, the arts have played a vital role for our university, and that will only continue and get stronger. I'm a former bandsman myself, playing the French horn and the mellophone for over 10 years throughout high school and even into college. So that played a vital role in my upbringing, and so I do appreciate what that did for me personally, and I'll always be a supporter for the fine arts. I would like to thank the museum for this outstanding recognition for our fine arts department. Again, our department is doing some wonderful things, and to get this type of acknowledgement is definitely appreciated. So I really wanted to say thank you on behalf of the university for this outstanding recognition.
Well, actually, I grew up in Lexington in Holmes County, about 30 miles south of here. I wound up graduating from Kruger-Chula. Met my wife Gail there, and we started dating very young, 14 and 15. We went to Mississippi State for probably a year and a half, and her father farmed, and had told me that he would give me a job when I got out of college if I wanted to, work on the farm. So I just called him and asked if I could come home a little early. Spending some time on the vestry at Church and Nativity and getting involved with Rocky and Pann Powers, they asked me to join the board of the museum in 2012, which I was hesitant to do because I knew nothing about a museum. But They said they would show me the ropes. Well, I served 6 years, and I was on the executive committee for most of those 6 years. They had already begun plans to renovate the museum. They were in early stages, what they wanted to do, what the long-term plans were, figuring out how to raise the money. And then, of course, Cheryl, she's been wonderful being able to get grants. Mississippi Arts Commission awarded us a nice grant that we had to match. John Pittman asked me to help him raise money to make the match. And of course, we did that. And it was a challenge, but you know, Greenwood, the people of Leflore County are so giving and for good causes, in which this is a great cause and a wonderful museum. So it wasn't near as hard as I thought it would be. Of course, like I do with everything, I call on my son to help, Doty. He's always willing, but it was pretty funny because they were old cotton bales that we had to move, and the old John Deere tractor, and of course it wouldn't run, so we had to push it, and it's iron wheels, and it's got cleats on it so it would dig in. So it took several of us to push it while he sat on the old John Deere tractor. It offers up a place for our local artists to showcase their talents. Summer discovery program for the children that Cheryl does a great job of putting together and doing every year. It's just so many events that she has, and she does such a great job of bringing traveling exhibits. You know, the Power of Children, Lebanese in America. The war comes to the Mississippi Delta. I think Cheryl won awards for that. I encourage everyone to come to the museum and see what we've done. And you know, it gives us a chance to look back at our history, where we've been. It gives us a chance to see where we're going, see what we did wrong, see what we can do right. It just basically brings the community together. I don't want to start naming names too much because you miss people, but all the people in Greenwood that have given money to the renovation and buy the tables every year for the gala, we really appreciate it because we couldn't do it without them.
In 1984, John Pittman introduced me to his lifelong friend, Mary Emily Wilson, an elderly florist in Greenwood. Miss Wilson owned a 600-acre farm in Bolivar County and needed some assistance in leasing out the farm and making improvements on that. So I was able to work with her through, at that time, a living trust, so the farm would meet her income needs and take care of her in her later years, which in fact it did as her health declined.
Mary Emily was a real interesting person. She loved Greenwood, she loved the Delta. She grew up in an agricultural family. Her father managed wildwood plantation, which happened, this was in the late 20s, early 30s, right at the height of the Depression. It was owned by her first cousin, who was Charles Merrill of Merrill Lynch.
At her death in 1994, the land was transferred to the Mary Emily Wilson Charitable Trust, so that all the income from the farm would go to charitable purposes to benefit Leflore County residents. Even though the farm was in Bolivar County, she lived in Greenwood. The Greenwood residents had supported her and done business with her over the years. And the purposes of the trust was to benefit handicapped persons and for educational needs, scholarships, specific grants and donations to educational entities.
We were able to pay for the curbing rework of nearly all of the downtown intersections to make them handicap accessible, and we did that project. We've also assisted with a number of buildings, I guess, making them ADA compliant with the restrooms and entrances and so forth. And we've also helped some families who had issues with either a developmentally delayed child that needed a special facility, a modification to the home. We've done so much, and it's worked out well, and again, it's not us, it's what she did.
Since 1996, the trust has been able to donate $1.1 million We've been able to help with the renovation of the museum. It's ADA, American Disability Act requirements for a public facility. Cases needed updating, the signage was old and faded. It was just a lot of things needed to be done here in the museum to make it more accessible, not only for handicapped people, but all the field trips that were coming into the museum, and really help the educational aspect of the museum.
Mary Emily had a florist down on Henry Street, and never realized that she had any real net worth, you know, because she actually worked this farm out of debt, and was very proud that she'd, you know, done that and paid it off, but she never really thought of it as something worth, you know, that could do what it's done. I know that she would be quite proud to see what's happened and to be in this facility now that's been so updated and improved, and its mission is being accomplished through a little bit of help out of this trust.
Well, I'd just like to say that I think this trust is a good example of what people can do in their planning. You know, you go on and give some specific donations to the museum or other entities now, or you can create a legacy later on and use broad terms and language and let your trustees operate within those parameters.